When I did the original film about 6 months ago, I actually thought that this film today was a reboot, and it turns out it's not. It's actually a sequel to that film. And I kind of like that. But I'm getting off topic. I'm talking about something good. Let's get on with what I do best. Well, I'm Berryman, and this is 10 Things Wrong With. Candyman is a 2021 supernatural slasher film. The film is a direct sequel to the 1992 film of the same name and the fourth film in the Candyman film series, and it's obviously based on the short story The Forbidden by Clive Barker. The film, set in present day many years after the last of the Cabrini Green Towers were torn down, it tells the story of Anthony and his partner who move into a loft in the now gentrified Cabrini Green. A chance encounter with an old-timer exposes Anthony to the true story behind Candyman. Anxious to use these details in his studio as fresh grit for his paintings, he unknowingly opens the door to a complex past that unravels his own sanity and unleashes a terrifying wave of violence. The film was actually eventually released in August 2021 after being delayed 3 times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The film received generally positive reviews from critics who praised DaCosta's direction, visual style and blend of social commentary with horror. But what have I, the nitpicking YouTuber, found wrong with this film? Well, let me explain. 10 things wrong with Candyman 2021. Number 10. Opening credits. Now, if anyone ever watches cinema scenes, the one thing they hate is like having 1 minute or 2 minutes of the film studio's logos before a film started. I normally ignore that, but this week those titles do something which I find really annoying. The fact that they are reversed. Now, when I actually make these videos, I actually watch it on my computer so I can do screen grabs so I can put clips in the actual Berry Telly. Now, because I thought the version I had, which was I bought on Amazon Prime, was wrong, I actually left the computer to do everything so I could do the screen grab. Then I, in post, flipped it so I could watch it properly to find out that it was done on purpose and then the rest of the film was flipped. Now, I would have been really annoyed if I went to the cinema because I probably would have walked out at the beginning. It's like, well, they've messed this film up before it started. Flipping that part, the studio's credits, no, they should be untouchable. Leave them alone. It's just off-putting. Number 9, where's the scares? With this film being a horror film, one of the things you would expect it to have is some scares, right? Well, I didn't find any. I did not find this scary at all. In fact, I think My Little Pony, the movie, had more scares than this film, and that's a kid's film. For a horror film, for a supernatural horror film, you would expect some, at least some decent jump scares, but it wasn't. There was nothing there at all. Number 8, pacing. One of the things, when I'm watching this film, one of the things I got the impression of was this film seemed very rushed. It was trying to get to its end goal too quickly. The impression I get from watching this film is they had the ending and they thought the ending was great, so they were trying to rush the entire story just to get to the ending. But the thing is, the ending was build up to a third act and then the film ended. It didn't quite work. It was right, let's get to the end. Right, we finished, done. They needed to sort of slow it down and flesh out a little bit with some more jump scares throughout it, just to fill it out. But no, this film, to me, it felt very rushed. Number 7, failed message. So what message am I on about? What message do I think that this film's failed on? Well, it is a bit controversial and I am trying to be very delicate, but in my opinion, this film failed on its racism message, something that the first film got really, really well. Now, let me explain. In the first film, yes, it was a white woman investigating the Candyman saga, and she's investigating all the stuff about racism, all the racism that was going on in a general black community of Cabrini Green, where the police wouldn't really go down. And yes, it told that message really well. Now this film, he's investigating what happened in the previous film, but it's done in a way where it shows or tells that the racism is probably over. which obviously it isn't. We've had the whole Black Lives Matter movement going on. This is, I mean, I might be wrong, but I got an impression that this film's saying racism over, it's a thing of the past and we're just going to bring it back up again for the sheer hell of it. Now, there is a couple of times racism is brought up. Now, the second one, I'll come back to the first one, the second one is racism through and through. A cop, white cop, runs in, sees a black man and shoots him. That is showing racism, and that's the main bit of this film, and that does show the message. But that's right at the end of the film. The first time it mentions it, it was the fact about the whole redevelopment going down with about Cabrini Green, that it was a white political thing that decided to tear it down, and it was a white landscape developer that brought it up. Wrong. It was actually done by a Cabrini Green community charity. It was done by residents who were living in Cabrini Green or had lived in Cabrini Green. So that bit, wrong information, and because it's wrong information, it loses the racism. But the fact they emphasise that it's going on or stuff like that, it happened in the past, means you're ruining the fact that it's still going on today. And I think that that message is just wrong. Number 6, who did the film? A film by Jordan Peele. Is it? Well, he wrote the screenplay. He produced it, but he did not make it. And this is something I do find really annoying with Hollywood, is the fact that a film is made by the director. The producer controls the finances and everything else, and obviously the writers write the film, but it's still down to the director. It's the director's film. He has final say on the film, as long as the studio don't interfere. So once again, they make a big deal that this film is done by Jordan Peele. No! DaCosta did a really good job in his directing, and you are undermining him, ruining his chances of actually growing even bigger. And I mean, if this is the work he can do, I mean, the directing itself is done really well, but you're ruining DaCosta's chance of growing by emphasising that this is a Jordan Peele film. It's not. Stop doing it. Number 5, Tony Todd. Now I'm going back a little bit to the research I did when I did the original Candyman film about 6 months ago. Loved Tony Todd, and when I was reading up on this film hadn't been released at that point. And one of the things was Tony Todd was coming back as the Candyman. Great, that is an absolute fantastic selling point. Except Tony Todd didn't really come back as the Candyman. Candyman's throughout this film, but it's not Tony Todd. Now, there is an in-story explanation, which I will bring up a bit later, but Tony Todd is in it for, 15 seconds? Granted, he's de-aged and most of it's CGI'd, and I am using that clip as the bits in between these sections. But yeah, that is how much Tony Todd is in the film. And I was annoying. Tony Todd is perfect as Candyman, but yeah, lack of Tony Todd, that's not good. Number 4, film title. Yes, this film's called Candyman, but Candyman is Tony Todd. End of. And I will argue anyone who says anyone else is Candyman. It's Tony Todd. End of. Now, I have an issue with this title because they do a bit of a twist where there were other Candymen. And that's who we see. We see another person who apparently stuck razor blades in sweets, and he became a Candyman after it turned out it wasn't actually him. He was killed due to police getting the wrong guy. They saw black man, end of. And it turned out there was other Candyman. Obviously, Helen Lyle from the first film, she became a Candyman. So instead of calling this film Candyman, call this film Candymen, you would have jumped on the aliens side of things, or call it The Legend of the Candyman, because obviously that's what this film does talk about. It talks about the whole legend. Now, I don't want to take away the fact that this is a sequel, but the title doesn't really reflect the film. Number 3, Wrong Death. Like I said, they do talk about other Candymen in this film, and Helen Lyle does come up in this film. She does appear in voiceover appearance taken from the first film, but also in text as well, where she is said to die from self-immaculation. Now, this is where it's going to get confusing because yes, she died in self-immaculation, but there's two different ways to spell it. And because it was in text, I'm going to put it on the screen, they said she died in self-immaculation, which is not how she died. She died as self-immaculation. Now, what's the difference apart from the E and the I? Well, if you put an I, that means death by fire. And because you put self, death by fire. That's what it means. Immaculation is something completely different. And you got that one wrong. Number 2, mirror. So we all know the tale now. You look in the mirror, look at yourself and say Candyman 5 times, which I've probably said more than enough, but I don't have a mirror in front of me, I just have a camera. Even though I can see myself in the lens, which is quite scary, and I'm not liking that. But towards the end of this film, she's in the back of a car, she asks the cop to move the mirror, and he does, he moves the mirror so you can see her. She starts saying, Candyman, Candyman. I'm gonna stop there before he comes out and kills me. Now, when she gets to the 5th time, the mirror miraculously has moved back to the copper. Now, sorry, that is a big mistake because if you've moved the mirror back, you've broken the spell, and 2, if you didn't move the mirror back, you've just made it an editing mistake. Which mistake would you like this to be claimed as? Number 1, Sparring the Caller. One of the things about Candyman is he kills the people who actually call him. Eventually, he did kill Helen Lyle. Yes, he tortured her and tormented her, but he did eventually get her to die. Something that this film also followed on. You call my name 5 times, I will come and kill you. Look at the high school girls in the bathroom. Except in this film, when she calls him in the back of the car, he comes, kills everyone else, saves her, and then walks off. Why didn't you kill her? Now this is going back to what I said earlier. It's like the film had this bit as the idea and they built this up as the ending. There's still a little bit more to carry on. What's going to happen to her? Wouldn't you then terrorise and get her to become a Candyman as well? It doesn't make the character, it doesn't flow right with the character. It's just wrong on so many levels. Final thoughts. So what do I think of this film? Well, I was kind of excited to watch this film and I did find it a little bit disappointing. It didn't have any scares, it didn't have as much like suspense as the original one. So I was kind of disappointed. But that, on one hand, is a down thing. But on one good thing, it was nice to see what the area of Cabrini Green actually looks like nowadays. It does follow up, and yes, I know I slated that part early in the film, but it's also a good thing. One thing can be good and bad in a film. Another thing I did like is the fact and the way they actually tied this into the original. That the fact that the baby that she saves in the first film is actually the protagonist in this film. Great, that is brilliant. I do like that. I also do like the fact that they do try to not step on toes from the sequels, where this is set just after the previous sequel, but they don't make any references to it. Okay, good and bad. But that's what this film is, good and bad. It has some good things, it looks good, it's well directed, it's got a good score, but it's just no substance to this film. There's no oomph, and I'm not. And I know I said the critics love this film, and I'm not actually one of them, I'm afraid. So, with a heavy heart, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10 berries. And I do feel a little bit bad because it had so much potential, so much riding on it, and I just think it was wasted. There were so many other things they could have done with this film. The whole concept was good, the execution was not. But that's my opinion. I think I'm going to get a lot of hate saying I'm being a bit too harsh on this film. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this film? And also let me know what your ratings out of 10 is. I'm quite interested to know. But that's this film done and dusted. Let's move on to next week's film, where I'll tell you what, let's go back to the MCU. Before Stephen Strange comes out with his second solo film, even though there's other people in that film again, let's have a look at what that's about. But until then, I will see you next week. Take care, bye-bye.